I still refuse to drive Route 6 through the Allegheny National Forest whenever it rains. Doesn't matter if it's a light drizzle or a full storm. The second I hear thunder rolling in, I take the long way around through Warren, even if it adds 40 minutes to my drive. My girlfriend thinks it's a weird habit. My mother thinks I'm being dramatic. But if either of them had been in that car with me 8 months ago, on that stretch of Route 6 outside Kane, Pennsylvania, they wouldn't ask me to explain it twice. I want to tell you exactly what happened, in order, without skipping anything, because I've spent months trying to convince myself I imagined it. I didn't. And there's a part of that night I still can't explain, a part that shows up in my head every single time it rains after dark. It started with a phone call I almost didn't answer. It was a Thursday night in October, and I was already in bed in my apartment in Warren when my phone buzzed. It was my cousin, Marcus. His truck had died on Route 6, out past the old lumber mill near Mount Jewett, and his phone was down to 11%. He didn't want to call a tow company that late, and he definitely didn't want to wait alone on that stretch of road, not with the Kinzua Gorge dropping off into black woods on one side and the tree line pressing close on the other. So he called me. "It's raining pretty bad," he said. "Can you just swing by? I don't need a ride, I need somebody to sit with me till the truck starts or the tow shows up." I told him I'd leave in 10 minutes. I remember checking the weather app before I left. Heavy rain, thunderstorm watch until 2 a.m., visibility low across Warren and McKean counties. I remember thinking it was just bad luck that his truck picked tonight to die. I didn't think it was anything more than that. Not yet. The drive out Route 6 usually takes about 20 minutes from my place to the Mount Jewett stretch. That night it took closer to 35, because the rain was coming down in sheets and my wipers could barely keep up. The road narrows past the turnoff for Kinzua Bridge State Park, no streetlights, just dense forest pressing in close enough on both sides to touch the shoulder. I remember passing the old sign for the mill, half rusted and leaning, and thinking how strange it was that I hadn't seen another car in almost 10 minutes. Not one. On a night like that, with the Kinzua Skywalk closed for the season and most of the seasonal traffic gone, you'd still expect at least a few headlights pulled over waiting out the worst of it. I found Marcus's truck about a quarter mile past the old mill, hazards blinking weakly through the rain. I pulled up behind him, left my own hazards on, and jogged over to his window, getting soaked in the 15 seconds it took to get there. He rolled the window down just enough to talk. "Battery, I think," he said. "It just died on me. No warning." That's when I noticed his hands were shaking. Not from the cold. "You good?" I asked. He hesitated. "Yeah. I thought I saw somebody walking out there. By the tree line. Before you showed up." I looked where he was pointing. Just rain and darkness and the shapes of trees swaying in the wind, the old mill roofline barely visible behind them. "Nobody's out here in this," I said. "Probably just a shadow." He nodded, but he didn't look convinced. Neither was I, if I'm honest. Because for just a second, before I turned back to my own car, I thought I saw it too, something tall and still, standing exactly where the trees started, not moving at all while everything else swayed in the wind. I told myself it was nothing. I got back in my car to wait with him for the tow truck, and that's when the first strange thing hit me. My phone, which had been at 62% when I left my apartment, was suddenly down to 4, with no explanation. I'm careful with my phone. No background apps, low power mode on. There was no reason for it to drop nearly 60% of its charge in 20 minutes. I didn't say anything to Marcus about it. I didn't want to add to whatever was already making him jumpy. Instead, I plugged my phone into the car charger and focused on the tow situation. Marcus and I had grown up 2 houses apart outside Warren. He was more like a brother than a cousin, and we'd spent plenty of nights just like this one, stuck somewhere, waiting on something, killing time with bad jokes. He worked at the hardware store on Pennsylvania Avenue in town, had a fiancée named Delia, and was the kind of guy who worried about everyone except himself. That's part of why it bothered me so much to see him rattled. Tow guy said 40 minutes, he told me, checking the message on his phone, which still had signal, unlike mine. Storms backing up his other calls out of Kane. 40 minutes on that road, in that rain, didn't sound appealing, but it wasn't unusual. Route 6 was known for spotty service and long waits between towns. I'd been out there before for less dramatic reasons, a flat tire 2 summers back near the state park entrance. What was unusual was the mill itself. It had been closed since the 80s, one of the old lumber operations that used to run through McKean County before the industry dried up. Locals said kids used to sneak in there to drink and dare each other to walk out to the loading dock at the back, where, according to town talk, a worker had died in an accident decades earlier. I'd never put much stock in that story. Every small town along Route 6 has one building like that. But sitting there in the rain, staring past Marcus's dead truck toward the black outline of the mill roof against the sky, I noticed something that pulled my attention hard. A light. A single, small light, glowing faintly from one of the upper windows. "Marcus," I said. "Does the mill have power?" He turned to look. "No. Cut off for years." "Why?" I pointed. By the time he looked, the light was gone. "I probably just saw the reflection of your hazards," I said, though I didn't fully believe it. He didn't answer right away. Instead he said something that stuck with me for the rest of the night. "I heard a knock on my window before you got here. 3 times. I looked, and there was nobody there." Neither of us said much after that. We just sat, watching the rain, waiting for headlights that weren't coming yet. The next 20 minutes passed slower than any 20 minutes I can remember. At first it was small things. The dome light in my car flickered twice, even though nothing was touching the switch. I tried the radio, just to fill the silence, just to hear something normal. It came on fine, some late-night talk station out of Erie, a host rambling about traffic on I-86. Then, for just a second, underneath his voice, I heard something else layered and faint, almost buried, like a second station bleeding through on the same frequency. It sounded like someone reading a list of names. I turned the radio off before I could make out any of them. "Tell me you heard that," I said. Marcus nodded slowly, not looking at me, still watching the mill. "I've heard it before," he said. "Twice, actually, before you got here. I thought it was just the storm messing with the signal." I wanted to believe that too. But then I noticed my rearview mirror had fogged over on the inside, even though the windows were cracked and the defroster was running. Through that fog, faint enough that I almost convinced myself I hadn't seen it, was the shape of a handprint, pressed from the outside of the glass, fingers splayed wide, exactly at the height a tall man would stand if he were leaning down to look through my back window. I didn't turn around to check. I couldn't make myself do it. Then Marcus's phone rang. He looked at the screen, confused. "It's Delia," he said. "But she's asleep by 9 most nights. She never calls this late." He answered anyway. I watched his face change as he listened. He didn't say much, just a few words. "Hello, who is this, Delia? Is that you?" Then he pulled the phone away from his ear and looked at me. "There's no one talking," he said. "But I can hear breathing. And something that sounds like it's saying my name." He hung up. The screen showed the call had lasted 58 seconds. When he checked his call log, it wasn't there at all. That's when the wind seemed to die down all at once, like someone had switched it off. The rain kept falling, straight down now, no gusts pushing it sideways anymore. And in that sudden stillness, I heard something that made the hair on my arms stand up. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from somewhere behind my car, moving through standing water in a rhythm too even to be natural rain runoff. I turned around. There was nothing there. Just the empty road, disappearing into darkness behind us, back toward the state park turnoff. "We need to leave," Marcus said. "Forget the tow truck. We'll figure it out from your car." I agreed faster than I ever have to anything in my life. But before we could move, Marcus froze halfway out of his truck, 1 foot already in the mud, staring at something over my shoulder. I turned to follow his eyes and saw his truck's hood, still warm from the engine that had died an hour earlier, fogging with condensation in the cold rain. Written into that fog, drawn by a finger or something shaped like one, were 3 letters that hadn't been there a moment before. They didn't spell anything I recognized. They were gone within seconds, washed away by the rain, but neither of us moved for what felt like a full minute afterward. "We're leaving right now," I said, and this time neither of us hesitated. Getting Marcus out of his truck and into mine should have taken 30 seconds. Somehow it felt like it took 5 minutes, both of us drenched, both of us refusing to turn our backs fully to the tree line as we moved. I started my engine. It caught immediately, which felt like the first small mercy of the night. I checked my mirrors, ready to pull out, and that's when I saw someone standing directly behind my car, close enough that if I'd reversed even a few feet I would have hit them. I slammed on the brake even though I hadn't moved yet, some instinct taking over. When I looked again, whatever I'd seen in the mirror was gone. "Did you see that?" I asked Marcus. He was staring straight ahead, not at the mirror, but at the mill. "The light's back," he said. "Third window from the left. It's moving." I didn't look. I couldn't make myself look. I put the car in drive and pulled forward, away from the mill, away from whatever was behind us, my headlights the only thing cutting through the rain toward the turn back onto Route 6. We made it maybe 200 yards before my headlights cut out completely. Not flickered. Not dimmed. Cut out, as someone had reached under the hood and yanked the wire, plunging the road into total darkness except for the weak glow of my dashboard. I eased off the gas, terrified of driving blind into a ditch, and that's when Marcus grabbed my arm. "Stop the car," he said. "Something's on the road." I stopped. Ahead of us, barely visible in what little light we had left, something was standing in the middle of Route 6. Tall. Still. Facing us directly, the way a person would stand if they were waiting for you, not the way anyone would stand in a thunderstorm at midnight for any normal reason. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us breathed, from what I remember. Then it moved. Not walking. It was there, and then it was 10 feet closer, like the space between us had simply folded, no footsteps, no sound at all beneath the rain. I threw the car into reverse, not caring what was behind us anymore, just needing distance from what was in front of us. The tires spun in the mud before catching, and we shot backwards, fishtailing hard enough that Marcus grabbed the door handle to brace himself. My headlights came back on the second I put the car back into drive, as suddenly as they'd gone out, illuminating an empty road ahead of us. Whatever had been standing there was gone. I found a wide enough shoulder near the old mill turnoff to swing the car around, and we drove back toward Kane instead, away from the state park, away from all of it. We didn't talk. We didn't stop again until we hit Route 219 near Kane, streetlights and other cars finally visible ahead of us, and something in my chest loosened for the first time in half an hour. That's when Marcus's phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. One new message, time-stamped from earlier that night, during the exact window when his phone had shown no signal at all. He played it on speaker, his hand was shaking too hard to hold the phone to his ear. It was almost a full minute of just breathing, slow and deliberate, close to the microphone. Then, right at the end, a voice low and wrong in a way I can't fully describe said his name once. Just his name. Nothing else. Marcus deleted that voicemail before we even got back to Warren. I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing if it had said mine. His truck was towed the next morning by a company out of Bradford. The first tow driver who was supposed to meet us near the state park never showed up, and when Marcus called to ask why, they told him no such call had ever been placed to their dispatch that night. We told a few people what happened. Most laughed it off, said we'd spooked ourselves after a long day and bad weather near the gorge. My mother thinks we saw a deer, or a hunter's stand someone left up from bow season. Marcus's fiancée doesn't like to talk about it at all, mostly because of the missed call from her number that she swears she never made. I went back to the mill once, during the daytime, about 2 weeks later, mostly because I needed to convince myself it was just an old building along an old highway and nothing more. The windows were boarded shut on the ground floor, and the upper floor windows, the ones we'd seen the light in, were broken out completely, jagged glass around the frames, no way for any light source to exist behind them without being visible from outside in every direction. I found something else, too, something I haven't told anyone until now. Scratched into the wood of the old loading dock, low enough that you'd have to crouch to see it, was Marcus's full name. Not initials. Not something a bored teenager could have carved on a dare, because nobody in that part of McKean County besides me and Delia would have known his middle name, and it was there too, spelt correctly, like whoever wrote it knew exactly who they were waiting for that night. I never told Marcus about the carving. I don't plan to. We don't drive that stretch of Route 6 anymore, either of us, not even in daylight if we can help it. And every time a storm rolls in after dark, I still feel that same tightening in my chest I felt that night, waiting for headlights that weren't coming. A few months ago, during a storm just like that one, my phone buzzed with a voicemail notification. No missed call. No caller ID. Just a message, 41 seconds long, sitting in my inbox as it had always been there. I haven't listened to it yet. I don't think I ever will. But some nights, when the rain is heavy enough, I swear I can still hear something moving through it, slow and even, getting a little closer every single time.